Speaking of the businesses and different groups that are actually working to use the integral model, are you aware of any technologies or even social technologies that are being used and implemented and perhaps invented to bring collective intelligence together, group collective intelligences, and mediate the process?
Yeah, it's interesting because relatively recently, I mean, given the almost 50 years that I've been doing this, but I've gotten a fair number of invitations to speak at really large Silicon Valley conferences. And when I was invited to do the first one, and it was a conference of sort of the 200 of the leading Silicon Valley, leading voices. And so I really thought about exactly what to say and how that would go over. And I had noticed that a fair number of people that were coming to this conference had developed applications that you could download. And you can now get very sophisticated headbands that will help give you a brain EEG readout. And so you can actually track your brain waves using these and a computer app. And they would send out a lot of applications that would help people get into meditative states of awareness. And that's where you're just sitting as this is pure witnessing, and you're not reacting to anything that's arising. And those are, of course, that's part of a general waking up phenomena. And what happens with waking up is those are made of states of consciousness. So when you have anything like a waking up experience or a meditative experience or a spiritual experience, you know it. You know that's happening. You can feel it. You're aware of it. So if you have this experience where you're one with the entire universe in love and bliss or something like that, you're completely aware of that. You know that. It's not hidden or anything like that. One of the problems with growing up, and because those are direct, immediate, first-person experiences, then our waking up traditions go back, some of them, several thousand years. Because when we had those experiences, we were aware of it. We knew it. We wrote them down and taught them to other people. All these traditions grew up on how to do that. But growing up is very, very different. Growing up isn't made of first-person states of consciousness. It's made of third-person structures of consciousness. And a structure is much more like, let's say, the rules of grammar. So everybody who's brought up in a particular culture ends up speaking that culture's language fairly accurately. They put subject and verb together accurately. They use adjectives and adverbs more or less correctly. In other words, they're following the rules of grammar of that language fairly accurately. We're following English rules of grammar right now. But none of us can look within and see what those rules are. We can't write them down, even though there's a whole list of those rules. None of us can look within and see those rules of grammar. And most people don't even know they're following those rules of grammar, let alone what they are or write them down. These stages of growing up are just like rules of grammar. When you're at one of those stages, you can look within all you want. You will never see it. You won't have a clue that that's what you're doing. So if you're at archaic or magic, mythic or rational or pluralistic or integral or just egocentric, ethnocentric, world-centric, you have no bloody idea that you're interpreting every experience you have according to the rules of that structure. And that's actually how you're seeing the world. That's just not in any way obvious. Now, one of the problems with the whole growing up sequence is that we don't yet have any type of brain imaging. Of what type? Functional MRI, positron emission. We can't measure brain activity and tell what stage of growing up a person is. So that's a real problem. because as I said, you can have a waking up experience, but you'll interpret it according to your stage of growing up, because that's what your mind, your relative mind, that's how it will work. And so part of the difficulty is that, and this was the whole problem with the traditional cultures that had practices of waking up and still had slaves, is that they were having these waking up experiences. But if you, for example, are a fundamentalist Christian and you have this experience of waking up, you experience your own Christ consciousness, then you'll experience being one with everything and sort of one with all sentient beings, for that matter. But if somebody doesn't accept Jesus Christ as their personal savior, then you won't think they can have that kind of experience. They may think they're having that kind of experience, but they're really not. It's actually probably the devil whispering in their ear. You're going to interpret it according to your fundamentalist rules. It's an authentic waking up, so but you can interpret it in ethnocentric ways. And Ram Dass even tells a story of his brother who was institutionalized because he thought that he and only he was Jesus Christ. And Ram Dass was just back from India, where he was, running into people that had waking up experiences all over the place. And he had had several himself. And he met his brother and he said, you could tell immediately that he had had a profound waking up experience. He said, but he was at an egocentric stage of growing up. So he interpreted his waking up as if it applied to him and him only. So he awakened to his Christ consciousness and thought he was Jesus Christ. And nobody else, including Ram Dass, could have that experience. So that job was already taken. It was him. So you can be egocentric or ethnocentric or world-centric or integrated and have a waking up experience, and you'll interpret it according to that stage you're at. So I had used, as I gave that first talk, it's about 45 minutes, to the Silicon Valley crowd. I included that as some examples. And I said, so I just want you all to keep an eye out for when we can actually get to the point where we can start brain imaging these structures of growing up, not just these states of waking up. Because what you're doing right now is you can actually be helping Nazis have a waking up experience and still be Nazis. You're not helping that much when you do that. So what we want to see happen is ways that you can write apps to help people grow up in addition to waking up. And I thought, well, maybe that's just too complicated or too esoteric or something. But it wasn't. It turned out to be a big hit. So I was asked to do a second one of those, and I did. It was actually voted the favorite talk of the whole damn conference. So this kind of awareness is starting to permeate Silicon Valley anyway. I do know some individuals that have been working on this. I know a large group that has got it to a point where they call it integral Google, which is that you can do a search, but you can put in parameters, search everything for this stage or search everything for this quadrant. So they're working that out, and they're working on funding for it right now. And I think they're going to get it. And that would be really extraordinary if people could start doing something like that. So we'll see where that goes.
Enter the Future Thinkers giveaway and win our brand new community membership, including in-depth courses, private calls, and more, as well as a supply of Qualia, a complete cognitive upgrade for your brain. To enter the contest, simply go to futurethinkers.org/giveaway and sign up for our mailing list to instantly get our 50-page guide on how to adapt to the future. There are many ways to increase your chances of winning. Enter the competition today. The brand new Future Thinkers members portal is now live. Develop your sovereignty and self-knowledge with our in-depth courses, get access to our weekly sense-making calls, join the Q&As with past podcast guests, and much more. Become a Future Thinkers member today at futurethinkers.org/members. To stay up to date with new episodes, subscribe to Future Thinkers on your favorite platform. And leave us a review or a like. It really helps out the show. And don't forget to share this episode on social media.